Welcome everyone to Just Onside. I'm your host Ahmed Badji Baghdadi, and I'm joined by our resident FPL guru and the man who came out with the Matthias Jensen shout. You know what? Credit where it's due. Uwais Ahmed.
Thanks, Badge.
That was a good shout, mate. That was a good shout. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
Well, seeing as we're giving out flowers here, you did say to avoid Alvarez because of the curse of the most transferred in. So you may well have been right on that one.
Yeah. I mean, it seems a recurring theme when it comes to FPL tips, but I digress. We are not joined today by Ayub Patel because he's messing around in France somewhere.
He's not messing around just for his significant other. When he says messing around,
yeah, not in that way, not in that way.
Just it's important just to clarify. But he's on a work-related trip, as he would say.
Work-related trip in Paris. But yeah, let's just kick things off with the North London derby. What a game, huh? What a cracker! 2-2, both clubs just going for the win. The game was played at 100 miles per hour at some points. It was just a superb watch, probably one of the games of the season so far. Question is, Ayub, after we debate...
You just called me Ayub?
Oh!
Wow. Listen, I've not been predicting Spurs to win the Champions League. No. Let's calm down.
That was in the back of my mind.
I'm sure it was. All good.
Sorry, Uwais.
No problem,
question is, mate, I know we deliberated whether Spurs are contenders, but after that performance, are they genuine contenders? Are either of them genuine contenders?
I think when you look at the margins at the top of the table, Badge, not just this season, I mean, it's early on, right, this season, 6 games in, but if you look at the last couple of years, the standards that Manchester City and Liverpool have kind of taken this league to currently in terms of their points, I'd have to say right now, I don't see either team challenging. And it's for one very simple reason. I think because of those margins being so incredibly tight at the top, you see Man City currently, I think, have won all 6 games. Even draws are seen as obviously setbacks. Arsenal haven't lost this year yet. They've won 4 games, drawn 2. Yet already there's a fair bit made of the fact that they're 4 points behind Manchester City already. So I think just in terms of the standards that Manchester City have had, it's meant that even a slight setback, I mean, a home draw against your North London rivals, you'd say in the end, you'd take it, right? You know, it's a game they could have lost. It's a game they could have lost. In the normal grand scheme of things, you'd say, listen, don't lose the game and you move on. So I think that's point number one. But the reason why I say I think neither team, in my opinion, unfortunately, unless things improve on both sides, is because it's a very simple formula for me, which is that both teams concede too many chances. And that is not a recipe to winning titles, especially when the margin for error is so minimal as it is. You can't concede chances the way Arsenal and Spurs do. And I've looked at Arsenal obviously closer because I'm an Arsenal fan. I think 2 teams heading in, not different directions, but at least coming from 2 different journeys, right? 2 different sources. Spurs are looking to kind of recover after some difficult seasons. They're looking to kind of get, they've got a manager in who looks like he's galvanized the club, galvanized the squad, and got them playing in the right way, got the fans engaged, because that's huge, I think, when you're managing a top club. But they would be pretty happy, you would imagine, right, with getting back into the Champions League. Many would have thought that would have been impossible after Kane left. So I think it's different. And then obviously Arsenal, having fallen just short of the title last year, they obviously want to be back there challenging Manchester City. So it's kind of 2 different places where both clubs are. I think that's fair to say. I think from an Arsenal perspective, just focusing on them for briefly, if I may, Badge. Again, I've mentioned this before, and I will just mention it again. I think it's such a critical point, is that I think it's something you've spoken about with Manchester United, that when Arsenal lost Xhaka, there wasn't that much made of it. But I remember thinking I was very interested to see how he would replace Xhaka. And I don't forget, Xhaka, when you think of him, if you think offensively or defensively, you think more generally defensively, right?
Yeah, of course.
He's got a defensive mindset. It's what we discussed, let's say, with the United fullbacks many a time. You think Wan-Bissaka, you think defensive. You think Shaw, you think offensive. You think Dalot, more offensive. You know, it's very difficult. Of course, you're looking for the perfect fullback. Trent Alexander-Arnold, you think offensive. It's just with Xhaka, because he gave that slight solidity, he had a defensive mindset. It meant that in a lot of games, Arsenal they'd have a bit more stability, a bit more of a kind of solid base to kind of attack off, even though he played in a slightly different position last year. And having replaced him this year in the game so far with Vieira/Havertz, those two players are both generally offensive players.
Yeah.
And it just means that the game sometimes can get into that kind of you play, we play type situation. Now, if you remember early on against Forest, they should have been a goal behind early. They were probably fortunate in the end to win that game, but they've not kept a clean sheet at home this season. Now, yes, the class of opposition, if you look at Spurs, United, but they've not kept a clean sheet yet. Even though it's a small sample size, the two away games they've played, good, tough, deserved narrow wins against Palace and Everton. Now, you might say against stiff opposition, they will concede, and I'd say fair enough. But there's a slight little trend developing similar to what you saw last year. Good control away from home, played with a lot more caution, let's say, and a bit more control, and eking out good wins. Whereas at home, they could have lost to United, let's be honest, if that Garnacho goal's given. It was marginally off. But if that, that's 89th minute or whatever it was, right? That's or a little bit early, I believe. But yeah, it's you're playing with the margins of victory and defeat. That's what I'm saying. And if you want to win titles, you can't be having too many of those games where you say, oh, that could have gone either way, or oh, that game could have gone either way. And Sunday was another example, right? A lot of people might have thought, because of Arsenal's recent history, with 10 minutes of injury time, they'll pull out another situation, right? I think a lot of people felt that way because they have had a lot of late goals in a lot of situations. But I think that would be the bigger concern for me, that little shift. Now, that's why I was really interested in this season. If they managed to play Partey and Rice together in some games, maybe Sunday would have been one such game where he might have gone for that type of situation. It would have just been interesting just to see how that would have, it would have compromised them offensively a little, but it would just been interesting just to see if they had more control. So I think Arsenal right now, the balance isn't quite there. They were a little unfortunate, I think, ahead of the game to have some injuries. That's not an excuse. It's just, I think, to have both your first choice wingers out in on the left-hand side and to have Partey out, Rice goes off at half time. So it just meant a lot of shifts, a lot of changes, and what have you. Saka's gone off injured at the end. He may miss some time, so it's a critical point now for Arsenal in the season with injuries and some question marks. Obviously, they lost Timber in the first game of the season, unfortunately for the entire season. So I think just in terms of can they both challenge for the title, in my opinion, Badge, just to finish off the first piece, I think not. Just because I think both teams and Spurs, look, I thought it was a deserved draw. I don't have any qualms about the result. I think Spurs were good value in the end for the draw. If you look at the statistics, neither here nor there, although Arsenal will feel aggrieved that they didn't put that chance away with Jesus at 1-0. He's got to hit the target there with the goalkeeper off balance, given that he's nicked it off Maddison. He really just has to hit the target and he scored it. Yeah, agreed. So I think if he scores that, it's a slightly different game. You sit in, you probably see it out. Not see it out, but you probably force Spurs to kind of come out and expose themselves a little bit more. So I think in the end, do both teams have that arrogance and control? I think Arsenal have shown that away from home. But at home, whether it's the emotion of the crowd, whether it's just that kind of slight naivety sometimes at home, they do seem to sometimes get involved in a you play, we play situation. And I just think that the level of quality now in the league, even those middling teams that we speak about, the Brightons, the Villas, the Brentfords, and others, you're not going to get away with it. You will fall behind in some games. You will concede chances. You will concede situations. And then you're at the mercy of a little bit of luck. You saw that save from Raya early on. Incredible save. So if you go a goal down, who knows? Maybe you lose the game. So in the end, can both teams compete for the title? On current form, no. I think that's pretty evident, at least from my side. I think Spurs, however, would be happy with the draw, and they should be, because away from home, a ground where you've not done so well recently, it continues their momentum so far this season and feel good factor. So I think Spurs will probably be more happy, also probably a little bit more disappointed. But I think Arsenal, just because they have slightly loftier expectations, I think they can there's perhaps a few more question marks on Arsenal right now.
No, I get that. I get the point with Xhaka, because you have lost a bit of that defensive edge there with him leaving, and like you say, Vieira, Havertz coming in. It'll be even more interesting now to see what your midfield's going to look like, given Rice is injured. We don't know how long for. But that they're pretty much all your defensive options out at the moment with Partey and Rice. I know Jorginho's there and he's a sitting midfielder, but he's a different kind of sitting midfielder. He kind of dictates play. He's not so much someone that's going to give you defensive steel, shall we say. I think I'm surprised that's the stance you've taken on Arsenal, to be honest, because a draw at home, albeit at home, but a draw to Spurs in the current climate is not a bad result at all, because I'm sure City will drop points somewhere as well down the road. The fact they took the lead twice, and drop that. That's a bit disappointing from Arsenal's point of view. But I think for Spurs, just such a good performance again. Ange has got on playing, man. You got to give credit where credit's due. Heung-min Son, the way he's taken both those goals, just world class, absolutely world class. Made the second one look incredibly easy. It's I think with Champions League having 5 slots now this season in the Premier League, I think Spurs, if they can keep their team fit, that is the key. Keep that team fit, and I believe they will end in. They could have a very good chance of ending in that top 5 bracket. Bissouma, that was the Bissouma of old, the Brighton Bissouma right there. That's the one we wanted to see last season for Spurs, but superb the way he effortlessly runs the game, that lad. Love what I see from him. So from Spurs' side, I think they'd happily take that point. Again, it was a superb save from Raya, like you said, but if Brennan Johnson actually catches that properly,
100%.
Back of the net.
I actually thought, I don't know, you might have caught the Liverpool West Ham game at Anfield. I actually thought, just on degree of difficulty, I thought actually that Alisson save might have been slightly ahead in terms of, I think there was that save earlier. I think it was from Susek. I'll have to double check that. But I mean, I know they've made it out as if he's fetched it from behind him. But to your point, clearly Brennan Johnson doesn't catch it. If he catches it, it's a goal.
He does go backwards a little though. So like fair play.
But goalkeepers practice that a lot. Getting across from your near post to your across. No, it's an incredible save. I just remember thinking, watching the Alisson save, I thought degree of difficulty. I actually thought the Alisson save might have been a tad more difficult. I mean, that save got a few little subplots off the back of that save, right? The
I
Riot
was gonna
one.
say, like, what do you think of that? I think like Carragher's like, I get it, I get the point. Like, yeah, he's clapping and all that, but deep down he's absolutely gutted. He's made the save, which he probably is. But at the same time, I mean, it's good to see the guy being professional, but I also do want to have a dig at him because after that documentary, I feel like they've all got a bit of acting in them. So I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but
I do have some thoughts. Look, Jamie Carragher is entitled to his view, and if you remember,
cynicism though from Carragher, but
Jamie Carragher spoke about how. And I'll be fair and objective. Jamie Carragher spoke about when Arsenal bought Ramsdale that was a significant amount of money to pay for a goalkeeper, right? If you remember, he questioned the value of Ramsdale when they bought him from. It was from Bournemouth. Was it? No, Sheff Utd.
No, Bournemouth.
Bournemouth. Right. Sorry, yeah, Bournemouth. Thereafterwards, I mean, he more than kind of changed his mind and opinion, and that's what you want from pundits, to be fair and objective with more information given to you. It doesn't mean you've just got to be hardened to one particular stance that you've taken. If more information comes, and he did say that he definitely surprised when he was quite impressed with Aaron Ramsdale. He then obviously, I think, recently made the comments covering the Champions League, I believe it was, Badge, when alongside, I think, Thierry Henry, I think maybe even Schmeichel was there. I think they got into a little bit of a spat, him and Schmeichel, about how I think he came out with the throwaway comment that Arsenal were, I think, and I hope I've quoted him correctly, but never going to win the league with Aaron Ramsdale or something along those lines. Now, when you are watching what are we talking about? David Raya makes an incredible save, and obviously the cameras, as you would imagine, pans to the Arsenal dugout, and there Ramsdale's not just applauding alongside a lot of his other teammates, but he's applauding with, you could say, with a little bit more. Yeah, he's made sure that it's clear and visible, let's say. But I think the only thing I would say is we've got to be very careful about how we interpret interpret intention where we can't quite see what it is. And what I mean by that is if the alternative is him sat there glum, not reacting at all,
exactly.
that's going to be
exactly.
what a bad teammate. He's not, pulling for the team and all the rest of it. So I'm not sure he could win in that scenario. You might argue he should maybe applaud with a little less histrionics, maybe. But I think from all intents and purposes, what he's feeling internally about David Raya coming on board is fine. If he's feeling frustrated, disappointed, angry, if it makes him work harder in training to try and win that place back, so be it. Maybe that is exactly what Mikel Arteta wants. But to interpret his intention to say, oh, he's absolutely hated that and I bet he's burning inside. I'd like to think at some point, many teammates, can't speak for all, but many teammates are just pulling for the other guy because ultimately you're playing for a club and you want the club to do well. Now, I don't think you actually want to see the goalkeeper make mistakes so that your team actually loses. I don't think he's that type of guy. I could be wrong. From all I see off the field, interviews, comments, his background, he doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. So I thought it was a little much. And I think we've just got to be careful when we kind of, like I said, interpret things which perhaps are not there just because we've got to have an opinion on things.
No, agreed. Agreed. I'm not gonna lie, the cynic in me when I initially watched it, but like live, even I was like, I'm like, yeah, fair play. Like he's clapping his teammate, but there's this cynical part of me that was like, not sure about that.
Don't worry about it. But you made a mention about, just very quickly, because we should comment on Spurs. You're right. That's a couple of assists, a couple of goals for Maddison and Son. You mentioned about the Son finish, the first one. I mean, Arsenal, other than Saka, and this is again the idea I was talking to you about, this kind of defensive mindset. Saka, in previous years, he does his work, and he does his work anyway. He's a very good winger in terms of defensively, but he just switches off, doesn't he? He's taking a shortcut, as I call it, which is, he's not going to turn me on his left. No, he does turn you on your left. You would always be taught, defend your goal side, which is that. And I know Maddison's good left foot, right foot, but you've got to make sure he doesn't turn you on that side, gets to the byline, because bad things happen when offensive players get to the byline.
Especially if you've just done his celebration as well when you've
Yeah, probably best to just pay attention for a little while. But no, I agree. And I think there's a good bit of good humor between the two about that. But no, I think in the end, great finish. Arsenal, had three guys just there. They'll be disappointed that he got a finish away, but left foot, beautiful. I think the second one's obviously unfortunate because once Jorginho gets tackled by Maddison, who harassed him well for that situation.
He did.
That's the one player you probably don't want the ball because he's going to make the right decision with the right timing, with the right pace, with the right touch, with Son not having to do anything. He just waits for it to come across his body. But no, those are two incredibly important players for them. And if they keep those two healthy, I think they will always have opportunities in games to score. And it seems like they've got instant chemistry as well. So that bodes really well for Spurs and their hopes this season.
For you guys, I feel like it's the same thing we say every week in the sense that there's just two glaring issues. One of them is Kai Havertz. No matter which way you spin it, he looks like he's playing at a semi-pro level, which is outrageous given he's at Arsenal. He doesn't seem to have gelled with the team whatsoever as of yet. He just doesn't look like he knows what's going on. I think that's it felt like a mistake when you signed him. It feels more and more like a mistake every day as each game passes. And Gabriel Jesus, man, for all the good work he does, he is not a gunman. And I can't believe 75 million that went to Havertz didn't go on like a proven goal scorer, because that is what you're missing. If anyone else, gets that ball off Maddison, a proven goal scorer, that's back in the net. The fact he's not even hit the target is criminal. And I think they're the fine margins, man. I think if Son robs it on the other end, that's a goal. There's no doubt about it in my mind. They're the fine margins, and that kills the game off because the speed and intensity at which Arsenal were playing at the start, especially after the first goal, oh my goodness, it was relentless.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree, and honestly, he's done the hard yards in smelling an opportunity and nicking the ball, and it's as though I don't know whether it's as though it's too good a chance. It's like as if he's already thinking, I've scored before I've scored. It's like I've done the hard bit, and I think that's where you want composure, right? You want him to. I think the thing with Jesus is, I think we all accept he's a very good player, top player. but it's that consistent quality. And even Haaland misses chances. We've seen week in, week out recently, although he also scores alongside all those misses, but he gets a lot of opportunities. But that 1-0 early doors, you're right, that probably is not necessarily the nail in the coffin because Spurs can come back, but it's
No, I feel like that would kill him.
Yeah, you can
Genuinely.
you can control things a lot better. 2 banks of 4, it's very difficult then because the other team starts to be a little bit more kind of circumspect. But I was saying to a friend on Sunday evening that, again, with the goalkeeper off balance, and what I mean by off balance is as in he wasn't in position.
Yeah, and he's not set at all.
He's not set, which means any type of on target, you're probably going to get it through his legs, around his legs, beside his legs. He could have probably gone behind him, just like as in just a nice. I'm just not sure why he had to lash it. And
he thought top bins or nothing.
I was gonna say we've all seen nets that close and they're massive from where he got the ball. So I don't see why he had to lash it as though Absolutely. The keeper was slap bang in the middle of the goal. But Havertz, I take your point. I questioned the player when he was at Chelsea before he was linked at Arsenal. And we all want to be fair to the guy. He had a very good game against PSV. Honestly, I watched the whole game. He did show me something. He did show me something. But to your point, he's not shown anything since he's come to justify that fee and salary. Now it's early doors. I'll still give him time once things settle. But given that he's playing him sometimes in that Xhaka role, that's such a shift in mentality in that position where Xhaka's going to be thinking, oh, got to be careful, keep an eye on the back door and all the rest of it. Havertz is just a more offensive player. It's a mindset thing that I'm talking about as a player. Your mindset is one of offense than defense. And I always think if you want to win titles, you want to have the defensive side covered because you can often be out of games before you're in games. And especially in this league where you've got top quality talent everywhere, a lot of rumors already around Tony, but he would cost a pretty penny in January, I believe.
Oh, to be fair, he's been valued at 50 to 60 mil, according to Fabrizio Romano. I mean, that's the top tier of source right there. 50 to 60 million. That's good value, that.
Yeah, but they can't do anything about that right now. So I would prefer that they stop the other team trying to create some opportunities and getting in behind consistently, because I still think scoring. Yeah, listen, you always want to make plan A better. Yeah, and Arsenal in the end, honestly, will be good for goals if everyone's healthy. Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, few guys chipping in here and there. I think Trossard, in my opinion.
Trossard, I brought him in FPL. I can't believe it, man. I can't believe it.
The worst thing,
pulled up with a muscle injury.
Well, he came off against PSV, and I thought, wow, that's him. That's him. Solidified for the. Obviously, you can understand Arteta not taking chances because Martinelli's out. He's thinking Trossard. Let me take.
Guess what I took him out for?
Go on.
Guess what I took him out for?
Midfielder. Go on.
Mitoma.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Hang on. Mitoma's home to Bournemouth.
Yeah, I know, but I was convinced he'd be rotated, and he was.
No chance.
He was rotated.
Yeah, I know. I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing that, but it's home to Bournemouth. You can't just don't give yourself an out there. That's a horrendous decision. But anyway, back to the topic in hand. Let's see. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are, but
forget everything else because I don't want to go long on this. But go on. Sorry, you were wrapping up.
No. It's not rude. But I was just going to say to you, do you feel the same way about both teams in terms of, as in that? Could you still see a scenario where Arsenal challenge?
I think they could. But that number 9 position is just such a glaring miss for them. So I think that's where they'll fall short. Honestly, I think in the big games where you need like your top gunman to get you to make the difference, get that goal, they don't have it. And if Rice is out for a little bit with Havertz, I have my faith just drops further. So let's see over the next few weeks, I guess, on that one. Did you think the penalty was a penalty?
I think in the end, it's unfortunate. I don't think he meant it. Of course he did.
No, of course not. Well, what's he meant to do? Innit?
But I think because it's close to goal and it's going towards goal, I think in the current climate it probably has to be. I don't like it. I mean, I had more issues with the Luton one against Wolves. I have big thoughts about that one, but it's unfortunate. But I mean, I know a lot of United fans were going
Up in arms,
crazy
huh?
up in arms about the Garnacho Romero incident.
It's because they just make stuff up.
Make stuff up,
They make
badge.
stuff up.
Yeah.
They just make it up as they go along. Stephen Warnock was questioning Dermot Gallagher on Sky, and it was just so funny to watch the man. Like, just he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to say. He was like, "If that's a penalty, how's this one any different?" And he just, and then he
Yeah,
just comes out
I
with
think
waffle, and it's like
the
embarrassment.
one issue I have sometimes with the referees' explanations, and Dermot Gallagher did it this
Back
weekend
their
as well,
mates, nothing
is
else.
well,
Literally,
is more when they talk now about, oh, once it's given, VAR is never going to intervene, and I'm thinking that's not the case because when there was that other situation with the Havertz penalty against United, they said, well, at least we got to the right decision. I'm like, which one is it? It's either
exactly they make it up.
I'm okay with the right decision being reached at the end. I don't care. Just get to the right decision, even if it's an absolute blunder. But I think it has to be given in the current climate. I think the only difference between this one and the United one, or the Garnacho Romero incident, in my opinion, if I can offer anything, is this one's 3 yards, 4 yards away from goal. That one was a shot from just outside the box. I think maybe a little bit of, I'm not saying it should make a difference. I think there's a little bit, one's speculative, one's genuinely heading towards goal. I think if I looked at the Garnacho replay, I'm not even sure it was on target. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, it was. Whoa.
Just my opinion, but I think it has to be given, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yes. Anyways, before we move on, mate, I've got a little pop quiz question for you. I
Wow.
hope you're ready. Yeah. So the question is, name the 2 teams that have won every game on XG so far this season.
All right. Okay.
On XG, yeah, so expected goals.
So you mean that if they have the higher XG against their opposition, they've won the game?
Correct.
Well, City's won.
Obviously.
Because they'll have a better XG than anyone really this season, probably.
I'll give you 3 guesses at the second team, just to make it fair.
I'm trying to think of teams that have won games that they've deserved to, but then they would have had to avoid being unlucky in other games, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure. Villa?
Nope.
So Liverpool, did they have a higher XG than Chelsea? Because that's the only game they've dropped points on, right? The Chelsea game. So they probably in the other game, Newcastle. No, they probably had a lower XG against Newcastle. And
no, just take your time, no problem.
Oh, you did say this was quick fire, did you? I'm not sure. Go on, just give me the other team.
The second club being Chelsea.
Oh, nice segue. Nice segue.
Chelsea, mate, what is going on?
So let me just clarify. What you're saying is, because they've won 1 game this season, right?
Yeah, they've won 1 game, but every game they've had more XG than their opponent. Every single game they've played this season.
I think I misunderstood the question, but okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. So you're telling me they've had a higher XG than their opponents in season. Every game. You know what? It kind of stands to reason. It kind of stands to reason because they were much the better team against West Ham. I thought for the most part they lost that game. They were better against Liverpool for the last 60. So yeah, kind of makes sense. Yeah, indeed. Okay.
My goodness, what's going on? Huh? What's going on? Are they on 6 points or something this season, or 5 points? Enzo Fernandez, the poor bloke's not in the top half of the table since he signed.
He's won a World Cup recently. So don't worry, he'll be all right. He'll be all right.
No, but seriously, what is going on at the club? Like, all that money spent, and you're not seeing improvements anywhere on the pitch. I mean, and given the amount of money they spent, their striker was actually bought on the relative cheap, and he's not been able to get them their goals either. Missed another great chance where Mudryk actually played him through really nicely. His movement is good, but the goals just aren't coming. What is going on at Chelsea, and how does Poch fix that mess at the minute? Because like me and Ayub have stated, he could be gone by Christmas. Honest to God, if this continues, he's a goner. So how do you think this plays out?
I think if it's the case that he's been given the target of getting to the top 4 this season, if they've said to him, we don't have any expectation this season, but we need to get 4th or 5th, if you say that 5th also gets Champions League, which you've confirmed. Fair enough. If they've set that as an objective and as a clear objective, not we'd like to be in the top 5. No, we have to be in the Champions League next season. If that's a clear objective, then yes, they can't continue with this kind of form much longer. There's too many good teams in this league. There just are. So that's the first thing. So if that's the case, then it makes yours and Ayub's prediction perhaps a little bit more likely that things are going to have to improve in the short term.
That is going to be the minimum requirement at Chelsea. Let's be honest. Manager comes in, it doesn't matter if they got relegated and came up that next season. That next season, they'd probably expect them, if they had the money and they could spend it, to be back where they belong in top 4.
Yeah, but I just wonder how much leeway he's been given. Is it a case of we're going to give you a year, and then the next season we expect big progress?
Chelsea.
Agreed. If past experience is anything to go by, I'm more closer to yourselves. I'm just believing that they will not fire him this season. It'd be too embarrassing. And I don't think it'll ever. I genuinely don't think it'll happen. That's not me just saying it. I genuinely don't think they'll fire him. Things would have to get much, much, much worse. I mean, they are in a difficult position, not having scored in 3 league games, right? And against 3 teams that you have to be scoring against, because, I mean, Forest at home, Bournemouth away, and even Villa at home. Villa are a good team, but nobody said that they are the second coming of Jose Mourinho's Chelsea or anything like that. You can't get at them. It's just that they've probably got a good attack themselves, right? So, you should be able to get them. And
one place below Arsenal, mate. Show some respect.
Of course. Hey, led by our former esteemed manager. All right. So I've got a soft spot for Mr. Emery. No, look, Villa are a good team, but again, Chelsea at home, obviously not having won yet other than the Luton game. They've had 4 games at home, only won one of them. I think in the end, from a Chelsea perspective, I mean, look, it's sod's law in it. You're right about the striker situation. I mean, Nkunku gets injured. That's a bit of tough luck, you might say. But you might say if there's one team that can't moan about injuries, it's probably Chelsea, because they've got about 600 players in their squad. But it's just, I mean, that's a little unfortunate, because he was destined to be their first choice striker, and he did really well last season. And he's a player who comes with some, credibility, right? So I think you've got that. You're right about the Mudryk and Nkunku situation. Great movement, great pass. You'd think that could have been a big fillip for both of them, right? Striker, Jackson, a big kind of boost to both players, assist and goal. Great pass, great movement. But then maybe
Such
just
an unconvincing finisher.
Yeah, maybe look up, try and put it through his legs, round the side, maybe an Henry finish or what have you. He just toe poked it near post or something, and nothing came of it. So definitely, you're right, very unconvincing. And then just when you know that, all right, it's going to be one of those games where it's going to be tough. Villa, home or away, are going to be tough for every team, right? They're a team that can hurt you. And then for the right back to do what he did, he was in my FPL team, but
you think that's a red though?
Honestly, Badge, if you
I
ask,
don't think that's a red.
But Badge, you know what I'm going to say. He's fighting with Zaniola. I think Zaniola, and as in, like, he's dueling with him, and the ball gets to Digne. And I ask this all the time. You know my pet peeve. Why do you need to go to ground? There was no need to go to ground. It frustrates the heck out of me, because yes, you know who I'm going to say. The Romeros, the Martinez. There are times you're going to cost your team just by being unlucky. And he was a little unlucky. He gets a bit of the ball, and then what happens? The follow through. And you know this, Badge. When they freeze frame it and your studs are against someone's ankle or higher, you might as well start walking. Now,
why do they go off freeze frame?
I agree.
Again, refs just.
I agree, but they call it aggressive force. And in the end, I would still put the responsibility on the defender, because Badge, he's not coming from a distance away. It's just a static ball for the most part. And he then goes to ground, and you're running risks of things going badly because you're not in control of your body. So for me, it's a very selfish action. At least that's just how I see it. I want my defenders to be responsible. Play properly, play upright, try only go to ground as a last resort. So I think there, and once that happens, you're gonna be kind of up against it. Good goal by Watkins. Goalkeeper probably should have done a bit.
You can't be getting beaten from that angle through the legs. Come on now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you look at it, it's it was a bit unfortunate because Colwell got the block in, and you're thinking he's not going to score from there, and he shoots
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
It's gone through his legs. Chilwell's then had a great opportunity, and
Such a good chance.
he's spurned a few opportunities this season as well. The famous chance against Huntington springs to mind. But look, do I think Pochettino's under pressure? He's under pressure. Even I won't. It's probably the one club where you don't want to be having this kind of run of form, because that rhetoric and that narrative that you speak about starts quicker than any other club. So I don't worry for him, because I think they will see it through. Today there was some talk about the owners, coming into the dressing room, and he had to kind of talk about that a little bit, which was fair enough. But they are going through a bit of a rut, and they don't look like a team that's going to score a bucket load. They're trialing a few things with Fernandes in the hole, and Fernandes kind of just off, and it's not quite working, is it? They've had a few issues with Caicedo, with a few injuries and all the rest of it. But at home, that's where you want to start again, getting the fans on side, getting the fans engaged. Look at what's happening at Spurs right now. So there's definite question marks. I think he needs to start winning, and winning quickly. But there's some tough games to come on the horizon as well. I think they play Arsenal in 2-3 games as well.
That'll be I was going to touch on that. Their upcoming schedule is absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. If you're a Chelsea fan, you must be bricking it right now, honestly, because your next game is Brighton. That's the EFL Cup. Sure, whatever. Wait, is it? It's from the Arsenal game, I believe, because Fulham and Chelsea, Burnley, they've got, and then it's Arsenal, Brentford, Tottenham, City, Newcastle, Brighton, United.
That's arguably that's a tough run. The only team you didn't mention, I was thinking Liverpool probably in there. So they played Liverpool early doors. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Fulham, Burnley are two. I mean, Fulham are a tricky team, but Burnley, they've got to beat Burnley. And if they don't pick up a win in arguably both games, they head into those fixtures, Badge. I mean, yeah, again, it all comes down to the objectives this season. I think if he's been set with the objective that as long as you get us to Champions League, your job is safe, then under that situation, he's going to come under pressure soon.
Here's a call. If they don't get points from Fulham and Burnley,
you mean wins?
Yeah, maybe wins. But
say they get 2 draws. Say they get 2 draws.
Even points, yeah. Next game's Arsenal, then it's Brentford, then it's Tottenham. If by Tottenham he's not picked up a win, he's gone.
No, they'll have picked up a win, but come on, you can't just keep extending like these kind of winless. And some of those games will don't you think it'll suit them a little bit more? Do you know what I mean? Because the other teams will be coming out to play. Arsenal got a lot of injuries at the moment.
I think it'd be quite poetic actually if they go on a bad run, and the Tottenham game is the one that sends Poch. Oof. I hope not. I don't want anyone losing their job. Not that actually, I don't really care all that much in this instance. But
genuinely, what do you think are? I mean, we all knew that there were going to be some teething problems, yeah, and just general chemistry. You need more than just tangibles, right? You need spirit, you need a team cohesion, you need that kind of mentality, togetherness.
For sure.
Do you see them digging themselves out of this? What do you think is the height of their kind of potential achievement this season?
I just don't see. I don't see where significant improvements are going to come from. Like they will. That one of their biggest problems is goals at the minute, because as I said, along with City, they will have like the most XG wins, shall we say, of the season. So goals are a big problem. Sterling's not firing. Jackson's not firing. Mudryk, yada yada yada. None of them scoring goals. It's a big problem. If you want to win, to win games, you've got to score. So I don't see. It'd be miraculous if in the next 4 games they've suddenly found some like rhythm and they're all connecting. They're all like everything's fluid. It's rough at the minute for them. It's very rough. They are. I don't think they've conceded all that many goals. I'm just going to double check. No. They've only conceded 6 goals, the same as Arsenal. But the problem is, they scored 5 and conceded 6. They just can't score. That's their problem. They can't get the ball in the back of the net. I think once they solve that, they will be fine in general. This still doesn't give me, like, looking at their squad sometimes on match days, like looking at their bench, I'm like, where's your money gone? Where have you spent that money, honestly? Because I'm not seeing any depth on that bench. Well, I'm not seeing anyone that's really like standing out to me that'd make a difference when they come on. You got Cole Palmer potentially, but again, how many games has he played in the Premier League to even put him in that category? He looks good when he does come on for him, but end of the day, they're at a stage where you can't afford to just look good. You need difference makers. You need players that are going to drag the team over the line with a win.
And that's what I mean. Just when you look at there are things that are predictable. I mean, it's like Reece James. You make him captain, and he gets injured. He always gets injured.
Always.
And I'm not saying you should sell him. Of course not. I'm not. I get it. He's, as in come through the club. He's young. He's a top player when he's playing. But he's always injured. And I just think that kind of chemistry and cohesion. Chilwell in his Chelsea career has not been as consistent, and that back four has to be that back five, I should say, with the goalkeeper. If you're playing a back four, that is just has to be, as much as possible. They've not got Europe this year, Badge, so it should be relatively consistent, right? Week in, week out, build partnerships, build relationships. They've not been able to do that. No. You'd think a midfield duo of Caicedo and Fernandes, you should think once those two get bowling, that's got the potential to be the best central midfield partnership in the Premier League. If you can get it functioning the way you want it to. But everything in the Premier League now, Badge, at the highest level, you see it every single season, another step forward, where if you don't have that kind of all 11 chemistry, it's not just about partnerships on the field. The whole team has to be knitted together perfectly. I'm talking defensively, offensively, patterns, how you structure, how you create overloads. Everything has to be knitted together. It's like if the ball's on the left-hand side, there's a role that even the right-hand side players played, if that makes sense. So everything has to work in perfect unison. They've got time on the training ground. Again, they've not got any European football. You like to think slowly but surely you start to see that coming through. They've been wasteful, as you've suggested, and there have been some shoots of or signs of something. But to your point, they don't scare anyone. That's always the first sign. So teams are coming to even Stamford Bridge thinking, yeah, we can get a win. Just keep it tight, get the crowd a bit quiet, and that's half the battle. Whereas Stamford Bridge before, I was doing some reading on Sunday. Just a separate topic aside, me and my brother were talking about many years ago. I think it was in 2008. I think it was when Xabi Alonso scored a winner at Stamford Bridge against Luis Scolari's Chelsea, and they beat them. So Benitez. So it was a deflected goal, 1-0. Alonso. They won. Ended an 86-game unbeaten run at Stamford Bridge.
Outrageous. Absolutely outrageous.
I was reading that on Sunday and I was like, did I just read that right? 86 games. And those times are long gone, right? The bit where you go to Stamford Bridge and you think, wow, okay, if we get a point, amazing.
Exactly. It was comfortably the scariest away ground for me. Comfortably. And nothing would scare me like going to Stamford Bridge. You just know you don't come out of there with wins. But now, my God, like, what's going on? Honestly. And he doesn't have a firm grasp at what his best 11 is and where they should play. Fernandes has been flying. Enzo's been flying around everywhere. He finds himself at 6, then he's at 8 in a different system. Then he's further forward, like supporting.
That tells you the manager's searching, isn't he?
Yeah, he's searching. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. Like on the last game, they played with a back 4. Prior to that, they've been doing 3 or 5, however you want to call it. I think Colwill is just finding himself at left back too often as well. Like, I get it. You've got Thiago Silva. He's not going to budge, and you've signed Disasi, who's going to be your other centre back. But I think Colwill better suited just to being in the centre of the park, and then maybe play Chilwell consistently on that left. Because Chilwell, yeah, he has missed some chances, and he's a full back, so that may happen. But he gets in good positions, gets in good areas. I know their fans are a bit torn on him. Some like him, some don't. But I feel like that he offers a better option than what they've got currently. Mudryk, I mean, jury's out on that guy, whether he's going to be justifying that price tag. God knows. Sterling, out of form. Jackson, out of form. What is going to change? I'm looking at their bench. No one.
I
Cole
think
Palmer, Broha just is back. Potentially, he's showed he's got a bit about him at Southampton. Um, and then the rest is just the kids. Ian Matson, David Washington, all
yep.
kids. Ogu. So where are
Yeah.
your game changers, your game winners? Like I'm looking at Villa's bench on the weekend. Tielemans, Bailey, who's been in great form, unlucky to find himself on the bench.
Mhm.
Even got that John Duran, who looks like a handful whenever he comes on for him. So, I mean,
His,
they've
his
got better options.
great goal against Palace the week before. Yeah.
Sensational goal. And if that was scored by someone like more of a household name, be seeing it everywhere because it was a lesser known talent. You didn't see it as much, but I digress. So yeah, I worry for Poch personally.
I don't see it. I don't see any scenario where he loses his job this season. That's not a prediction, but I just don't see it.
Wow.
It is Chelsea. I would, when you just
It
maybe
is Chelsea, you're right.
yeah,
It is Chelsea.
yeah, but maybe I'm naive. But there's a part of me that hopes that they wouldn't be so stupid. They'd see that no, listen, just you got to give these things time, and these are some extraordinary circumstances at Stamford Bridge. I have never seen this at any football club ever in my life. So it needs to be given time.
Let's see what happens. Before we wrap up, we need to touch on 8-0 Newcastle, absolutely obliterated Sheff United. Ooh, 8 different goal scorers. That's never happened, right? That has never happened before.
I can't remember that.
Incredible. And that is one of the things we were talking about when we mentioned Newcastle on one of the previous episodes. I was saying, I love the intensity. I love how they overpower opponents. It was superb to watch, honestly. Harvey Barnes, unfortunately for him, got that foot injury, which I think is going to keep him out for a little while.
3 months, yeah.
And Gordon, who I'm not the biggest fan of, as soon as he came on, to be fair to him, huge difference. Played his part in the first goal, which I'm sorry. How is that goal allowed? How is that goal? I'm not on about it crossing the line or anything. He handles it. He controls it with his hand and then assists. How is that allowed?
They've interpreted that it's not deliberate. It has to be deliberate.
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Come on now. If it's led to a goal, come on. That's ridiculous.
Are you suggesting that changed the game?
I mean, the first goal in any
I know. I thought you were just going to say, no, not really.
Sheff United, as much as I don't rate them along with Luton, to be honest. I mean, it's harsh as hell, let's be honest. For them to see that go in, it's not great. But then to collapse the way they did as well, it's awful. It's awful. But props to Newcastle, especially after their good point in Milan just before that. They just look like they're on the up.
Yeah, agreed. And honestly, I think Newcastle, some good goals early. To your point, with the 8 different goal scorers, couple of set piece goals in there, but some lovely football played as well. Trippier's first time ball to Wilson, just lovely. Absolutely on a plate. I think Trippier ended up with 3 assists, but
and a clean sheet.
Exactly, and I think if you're gonna. Newcastle, like you said, good point away at Milan. Kind of just getting back on their feet, so to speak. Good win away from home. Any away win. Doesn't matter which ground it's at, doesn't matter which club, any away win, you should be celebrating. Your team got a big win Saturday night. Again, it doesn't matter who it's up against. I think away wins just give you something, clean sheets give you something. And I think the Newcastle, they play some lovely stuff. They probably needed that, I think, but I'm surprised. I genuinely feared for the Sheffield United manager. I've not heard any news since. There have been some rumours about Chris Wilder. I don't know whether that's ever going to come to fruition, but it seems like there was a Wilder cloud, I was going to say, hanging over the club since the last couple of weeks. You remember what the manager said after the defeat against Spurs. Whether that had any effect on yesterday's game, who knows? But in terms of the way they lost that Spurs game, whether there's any lingering effect. But 8-0, I mean, some of the goals, so much space, so many gaps. You'd think at some point you'd just go into kind of 2 banks of 4, just stop, kind of, shut up shop and let's just be solid and let's create some good habits and get some good situations. 8-0 is not good for anybody. So surprised that unfortunately, I don't want to see our first casualty of the league. No doubt it's coming soon. But I was surprised, to be fair, that he's still the manager. Good on him. Good on him. I hope they can turn it around. And you did mention Luton Town badge. They got their first point. So that's,
Ayub was sweating.
are you was sweating? But just before we do wrap up, and I will let you wrap up very quickly, Badge. Your team did get a big win Saturday night. It would be remiss. We've covered United a fair bit, and that was a huge game, wasn't it? I think if they dropped more points, that would have just more and more negativity on the club. I don't think it was necessarily the best performance, but they just needed a win any which way, and they got a win. What were your quick thoughts?
Quick thoughts. Burnley were probably the better side throughout the game. United, again, not playing like a top side that they are, letting the likes of Burnley control the game. No disrespect to Burnley, but United should be controlling games like that. Amdouni should score his chance.
Yeah.
Even though he hit the post, you could deem it as unlucky, but I just think in those situations, have to score. Bruno Fernandes, my God, what a goal. I might as well wrap up goal of the month. That was incredible. The sound of that volley, love that. Love that. Beautiful pick out by Johnny Evans, who's unlucky to not have a goal. To his name because of the offside against Hoyland. But I think there were certain, again, periods where we look decent, but then there's other periods where we're just like, it's just strange. It's just strange why we let teams dictate, why we're not on the front foot, aggressive, trying to get that ball back immediately. Don't let the other team settle, but we don't seem to have that in us right now. For whatever reason that is, I don't know. But hey, it's 3 points and they stopped the rot somewhat. Palace EFL Cup today, so I'm sure some players, I was going to say some fringe players might get a chance, but to be fair, the squad is that bare bones. Might see some familiar faces in that team today. But yeah, to go into the next game, 3 points, it was much, much needed. There's a lot of people coming back from injuries, which is good. Amrabat made his debut. Happy with that. Obviously, barely saw any of him, but we'll see more of him in the coming weeks. Mount on his way back as well, as long as Varane. I think Varane's the biggest one. Varane is the biggest one coming back from injury because there is no other leader in that defense like him. I think a lot of these cutback goals that have been going in, I think with Varane, those don't happen because his positional awareness and his reading of the game far, far better than any other defender we have. So yeah, there's a few promising signs, nothing major, not a great performance again, like you mentioned. Burnley, if you're a smaller team playing bigger teams, you've got to take those chances. And you know what? Even though we're Blackburn Lions, credit to them because they are actually playing decent football and look like they're trying to. I don't mean this in the most disrespectful way, but there's a bit disrespect, I guess, in this comment. But they look like they are up for the fight of trying to stay in the league, whereas I feel like Sheff United and Luton know they kind of know they're going. It's just...
But Burnley was seen to be one of the three promoted teams that would stand the best opportunity, right, to stay up. And I think there's a certain acceptance, at least from Luton Town, in terms of the way they went about their recruitment, that there was an understanding of where they stood within the footballing pyramid, right? So I think that's no disrespect, but and again, they got their first point, so they'll be hoping to build on to that. I'll just give a couple of quick thoughts. One for United, one for Burnley. United just needed a win. You're right. It wasn't the day to kind of deep dive into the performance. After the run they've been on, they just need a win to get out of there and a clean sheet to boot. Burnley started really well. The only thing I would say from a United perspective, I want to say disappointed with some of Hoyland's passing. I was so disappointed with. There were some situations you had 3-on-2s, 3-on-3s, and it's just under hitting the pass every time. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I hate that.
I was like, you had some.
But he does enough good things for me.
He does, and it's very early in his Premier League career. I'm not criticizing him, but
again,
just
his movement in the box phenomenal
for sure. And he should have got that goal from the Dalot cross. Or at least
cross. I feel like he was there.
He was there. He was there. And I know it's hard because it's fizzed across. Don't get me wrong. It's not the easiest at the near post. But I thought some of his passing, especially in those 3-on-3 situations,
I know what you mean.
When you're trying to make the most of those situations, I think that left a little bit to desire. Burnley, other than that chance for Amdouni, I thought they were just a little too safe. And I think the issue for me, when I look at Burnley, at least watching them closely in that game, is their kind of entire front line's all very ball to feet, coming a little deep. they need to threaten in behind to try and stretch that kind of opposition defense and midfield. I saw that all the time consistently. United were just able to squeeze up into that midfield area because everyone wants to come to feet. But they gave it a go. I would worry for them just because,
for sure.
Just because I think when they do open up, they get put 5+ put past them like Spurs did. Yeah, when they look try and keep things tight, they don't look that threatening at all. So they're just trying to find that balance between attack and defense. I think currently, and I was thinking about this just very quickly, and then we absolutely must finish, is look at Everton. They pick up a win, and you think, even though Everton were horrendous against Arsenal and been horrendous this season, for the most part, one win, it's like you think to yourself, how long is it going to take some of those other teams just to pick up 3 points? Whether it's 3 draws, whether it's a win. Like, you get my point? Like, it's just
for sure.
Everton could like have 25 horrendous games, and just have 13 half decent games and win half of those, and they might be okay. So
honestly,
I just feel like that's where Luton, Sheffield United, Burnley as well.
You're right in what you're saying. I feel like 20 points is safe this season. You get 20 and you're probably safe, honestly.
So
you know what I mean, though.
I know what you mean. I think it could be that one of the lowest totals that could keep you potentially keep you safe. I mean, Sheffield United are not gonna be full of beans, are they? Getting hammered 8-0 at home. Luton, we know their struggles. They picked up a point. Fantastic, congratulations to them. And Burnley are just for me. It's Burnley are, in my opinion, fighting what I call like this kind of philosophy battle. It's like
it's a bit of an identity crisis. They've gone from being hoofball, one-dimensional, and albeit it worked for them somewhat.
Exactly,
to now being all cutesy and stuff with their forwards,
and just working out that step into the Premier League is just unless you've got elite quality, it's just proving a little bit too big a step right now.
No, for sure. Agreed. And that will wrap things up for this episode of Just Onside with. Thank you as always for joining us. It was a good show. Enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and very much so.
And I knew once United won on Saturday that you'd rock up. So no, good to have you with us.
Oh my God, this false narrative is going to continue. I hate it.
We've still got to cover the Manchester City treble win.
Let's leave that out. Anyways,
remember, guys, we'll probably get a chance this season.
Oh God. Remember guys, like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Leave a comment down below in the YouTube video. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, and follow our Twitter/X account. I hate that. No, just Twitter account at Just Onside Pod. And we will catch you on the next episode, which will be later in the week, I believe.
Yep.
In the meantime, don't stray.